Thank you, everybody, for joining me. I'm Massimo Palermo in the MPP Power Hour Show. I have a special show today. I have trying something new today. I'm going to have two guests today, and two guests that I had previously. One is Tom Baldwin, and the other one's Rob Lockett. Hey, gentlemen.
Hey,
Hello.
Massimo, great to be here.
Good morning or good afternoon over there.
And good afternoon and good morning to you, gents. Good day, mates, as you folks say in Aussie there.
No, we just say hello.
Must be an Americanized thing then.
How are you?
Oh no, I use it, Massimo. I remember when the first time I went to the US in my 20s. I didn't actually use "G'day, mate" very much at all at home, but I knew it was kind of expected when I went to the US. So I started using it just for that week, and then since then I haven't been able to stop. So yeah.
And Massimo, can I make a confession? When I was over in Orlando for Disney training, I went to a bar and just adopted a Californian accent, and I had this woman so convinced that I wasn't Australian that when I lapsed into my normal Aussie accent, she turned around to me and said, "That's the worst accent I've ever heard. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to be Australian?" And I'm like, no, I'm not trying to be. This is my accent. Just, I wouldn't go into acting if I were you. That's terrible. You're pretending to be an Australian. I went, okay, then.
Boy, Rob struck out at the bar.
So,
that's
what I get for the subterfuge, I guess.
I think this whole "Good Day, Mate," and I just want to touch one more time on it, is I think because it was all because of Crocodile Dundee, the movie. I think that's really when it kind of became popular.
Oh, yeah. And can we cast another thing? It's prawns over here. It's Paul Hogan said shrimp, but he was trying to
attract that American audience.
American viewers, but we've always called them prawns.
Okay.
Shrimp, we don't know. We don't get shrimp. We're like, prawn on a barbecue. If we do that, not everyone cooks seafood on the barbie over here.
Not shrimp on the Barbie? Oh, man, how disappointing to hear that. It was funny. It's funny you just said that, Rob, about the whole accent thing and how you went into a California accent. I just got back from Italy and Sicily, actually. As you both know, I had mentioned that to you before we decided to schedule this. And my family, my brother and my nephew were trying very, very hard to, speak a proper Italian in Sicily. And I just kind of laughed, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm just not going to pretend that I speak fluid Italian, because I don't. I learned some Italian when I was in high school, took some classes, and I know some proper Italian, language. But for me, the dialect of Sicily, and in fact, it was hysterical because when I was walking around on my own and like going up to people, behind the restaurant or bars or whatever, and ordering things, they would say, "What part of Sicily are you from?" It's like automatically they thought right away, they knew this guy. Oh, this guy's Sicilian. He's native. He's a brother,
Oh.
So it's like,
the trouble is if they lapse into full Italian and then suddenly you have to give it. No. I only know a few phrases. Stop.
Right. So that was so funny. You mentioned that. It's just like it just right away just started thinking about my trip that I just came back from. So anyway, as I said, this is something new we're trying here at the MPP Power Hour, and we'll probably do something else. I'm always open to ideas and suggestions from my viewers and my hosts, my guests as well. And I'm always open to new ideas. And this is one of the new ideas that was suggested by Tom and Rob, and I thought it was a great idea. Change it up a little bit. We'll discuss all kinds of stuff, whatever we're ready to discuss. There's nothing specific. I think the biggest topic that we probably would enjoy talking is amongst the three of us, especially as authors, is our journey as an author, our personal and professional journey. The process, the whole, after you get done with the process of writing and getting the book published, everything. There's so much involved in it, and And to be honest, I mean, I'll start out real quick by saying I had no idea what I was getting involved in when I wrote my book. I had no idea. I mean,
Absolutely
I
not.
had no idea how much involvement the author plays into this whole thing. You know, I thought somebody writes a book and, you know, like Stephen King, he writes a book and boom, everybody talks about the book, right? It's all over TV, you know, it's all over the movies. You know, I thought, oh, yeah, how hard can it be? Anyway, I don't know who wants to lead off with their journey and what, you know, Tom or Rob, whoever would like to start.
I'd love to hear about Rob. I think Rob's got a really interesting. There are some parts of mine and Rob's that actually parallel one another. But yeah, we've both been through some interesting stuff. So I'd love to hear
Oh,
how
I was going to
Rob got to
volunteer
where he
you,
is
Tom,
today.
but because I'm curious too. But okay, all right. Well, I'll depends how far we go back, I guess. So my first novel, Resurrection, I first started writing it when I was living in this, basically living in a pub sort of bar area in England, and it was a pretty tough time in my life, to be honest. I don't know if I've told you about it, Bussavo, but I'd had like a relative die not long before that, and I was doing that whole going overseas as sort of a cathartic thing, and yeah, it was going through a bit of a tough time in England, and the writing part was a bit of a catharsis, I think, to um, try and purge out some really tough emotions and things I was going through. So there's a little bit of it, only a very brief glimpse of the novel. It's semi autobiographical. But from that point, I started putting some pen to paper. And after that, I started to actually feel a bit better. And then it sort of sat, I wrote a couple of chapters and it sat on the shelf, basically in my brain for a good, probably decade, I think. And then it was just a couple of years before COVID. I was teaching some students out in a place called Dunedoo in New South Wales, a real rural area. And they said, "Why don't you put it on Wattpad? You know, just put a few chapters up." And I said, "Yeah, sure." You know, and they said, "Look, it'll inspire you, and you'll get people, and they'll want you to write." And before you know it, I was writing a chapter every week after that, and some of them helped me with ideas, and so that journey was interesting. But as you guys have mentioned, once you get it written, that's only the first step in a long line of steps. And as you said, Mustafa, I had no idea what I was getting into. So once I got Resurrection finished, it was quite a long time. I think it was probably 12 years from the original inception, but actual writing, it was probably only 6 months. But because literally the words were flying off the page. And I finally, because I was teaching kids this technique of trying to get into your conscious and subconscious wavelengths, and you get into that good spot when you're writing. And I found I was just getting into it all the time. And it was funny because we had Harper. She was still only a baby, and it was just those nights when I got her to sleep finally, but I couldn't switch my brain off, and I couldn't go to bed. I thought, look, I might as well just keep writing, and got into that healthy alpha beta brainwave going through and into the good spot. And I felt like I subconsciously wrote half the novel, like, because I'd look back and go, what? Okay, that sounds good. Whatever I was writing. But so that point, put it out in 2000, just after the lockdown, the first lockdown we had in the pandemic. And yeah, as we said, that's part of the job. I've probably just about to hit triple figures, so it hasn't been a huge sales journey, but like I said, just the marketing is the biggest step, and trying to get reviews is the other big thing, as we know. So that's probably the condensed version of the journey. But yeah, I thought I'll let you guys now. I'd love to hear Tom's journey as well now.
So wait, before we start with Tom,
Oh, sure. Oh,
so
yeah,
you,
back to me. Sure.
uh, you said you've published your book in what year?
2020. Yeah,
Okay,
just after we had our first lockdown in
okay.
Australia.
And Tom, your year?
So yeah, I published. Boy, I keep losing track now. The years kind of all blend together with that COVID thing, but I think I
Yeah.
published 3 in 2020, one in 21, one in 22.
Okay.
And then I've got another one coming out next month. So
you basically both
He's like Stephen King, Tom. He writes. What does Stephen King write? 2,000 words a day. That'd be Tom, I reckon.
Really
depends on the day. I've had days where I've written 10,000 and days where I've written 10 words.
Zero. Yep.
So of the three of us, I'm the newest published author of the three of us. So
he's the modern one, people. He's the book you've really got to pick up.
Yeah, that's right.
So Tom, we'll start. You're next on the journey of journeys here.
All right. Well, forgive me if I rave on for too long, because I guess my journey feels really long, and I can just see all these milestones along the way. If I'm going for too long, Masame, just turn off my volume, and everyone will laugh at me. Just
it's hard to condense it all, isn't it, Tom? Like, I'm there thinking, God, like, how do I try not to bore people at the same time, but tell everyone my life story as it is?
Don't worry, Tom.
I'm not interested in condensing it, Rob.
Don't worry, Tom. I'll mute you if I have to.
No, I know you've got control, Masame. You'll keep me under control. It'll be fine. So I guess for me, like, my writing journey genuinely started when I was 6 or 7, because I had a difficult transition into the early years. Well, my very first year of school was really tough. I struggled to adjust. There were lots of reasons for that. But then in my second year, I wrote this short story called How the Giraffe Got Its Spots. And it was, my teacher loved it. Even my parents loved it, and it was kind of put up on the wall in our classroom. I went, oh, that's great. I want to be an author when I grow up now. I'd wanted to be a firefighter up till then. So I want to be an author when I grow up now. And so, going through school, I used to write stories that were much longer than were required. And because I just loved it. I loved the art of writing stories. In fact, I use art hesitantly there, because my early work was certainly not art. After that, I went off to university or college, as you'd say in the US, and I did English and drama teaching as my degree. There were other steps between that, but I won't bore you with those. And I did a creative writing course. And at the creative writing course, I discovered, yes, my writing really wasn't that good. There was a lot that I had to learn, a lot I didn't understand. I didn't have a life experience, and I didn't have the intuition you needed to be an author. And so I kind of thought, okay, well, I'll just throw myself into the English drama teaching thing, and that's what I'll do. And so did that for 20 years, virtually without writing again. I wrote, a chapter here and there when I thought I'd come up with a bit of an idea, but nothing stuck, nothing that I wanted to continue to write. And so, I moved up the ranks in my teaching career. And so I was a head of English and drama at a private school, and doing really well in that role. And then I just got to this point where it was time for a change. My children were a bit more grown up. 2 of them were adults. And so my wife, youngest daughter, and I decided to go and spend a year in the UK. And in the job I took on in the UK, they just wanted me to do my job. They didn't want me to do the extra stuff I'd been doing, like directing plays or leading a team or any of that sort of thing. And so I suddenly had all this time on my hand. I had only one child with me and virtually no one I knew in a new country. So I had a lot of time and a lot of creative energy bubbling away. And so I woke up on October the 14th, 2018, with an idea for a story. And I sat down that day at my laptop and just started typing it out. And at the end of that first session, I had 3,000 words done. I went, this thing has potential. This thing could actually really be a story. It could be a concept that could work. And so from there, I wrote and wrote and wrote. And over around 4 months, just over 4 months, I got down nearly 200,000 words for that story, which was way too long, don't get me wrong. But I got down nearly 200,000 words in that time. And not all those words were perfect. Not all those words were where I wanted them to be. But they were words, and it was a story. It was a self-encapsulated story that just needed some refinement. And so I spent the next 2 years refining that story and getting it right. I even did a writing course to really improve the quality as well, and to get a sense on how to build my craft. And the biggest moment for me was when I shared it with my wife, because she knew how bad my writing was when I was at university, because we were dating back then, right? And so she knew, so she went into it with lowest of low expectations. She was down on the floor expectations, and she after reading just a few chapters, she came to me and she said, "This is actually really good." I mean, the note of surprise was a little bit heartbreaking, but at the same time, it was also edifying. It made me go, "Wow, I'm onto something here. This is a great opportunity." And so I didn't stop. I spent that whole year in the UK when I wasn't teaching. I spent most of it writing, and I had 3 books, all in draft stage, done by the end of that year. Around over 500,000 words already done on that series. So it was quite amazing how it all of that came about. I won't go on to the other writing journey stuff. I'll maybe leave that for a bit later in the show, because I'd love to hear about Massimo. But did you guys have any questions or thoughts on all
Yeah,
that?
oh, absolutely, Tom. Was that Newcastle University that you did your creative writing courses? There would have been for
It
your arts
was.
education degree, right? Yeah.
It was, yeah.
It's,
So
it's
yeah,
a wonder we
I
didn't
had
end up in
Paul.
the same classes. Yeah, because I did those, and I can tell you, Massimo, you've probably done similar. Those classes can be vicious. You basically you all have to write. It's not every week. I think you write 2 or 3 for the term, and then they come and critique everything.
Oh yeah, we had a bloke named
It's like a
Malcolm in
post-mortem.
ours,
And like I was
and
lucky,
he
I wrote a couple that were
he was
generally
brutal.
well received. But there was one woman that was vicious. And when it was her turn, everyone took her apart. It was insane.
Yeah, well, we,
So
we had the we had the opposite, unfortunately. We had a bloke named Malcolm in our class who, to his credit, was keeping people accountable, though he's pretty brutal again about it. But yeah, the problem was his writing, we couldn't deny it, was actually just really, really good. He came up with such unique ideas. So yeah, that was certainly part of my induction to it. But yeah, I had Paul Kavanagh, and then later on, Peter Cocan as my lecturers for it. I did
Oh,
a
nice.
couple of semesters. So
I
yeah,
think the Massimo, you've probably worked out. Tom and I've got quite a lot of parallels. Like
well,
both English teachers, both went to Newcastle Uni, both went to the UK at some point.
mm,
so
And the writing process began.
my journey is a little bit different, obviously, being that I'm in the US and not in
mm,
Aussie. Um, but in any case, I had the only kind of writing courses I actually took, and it wasn't because I wanted to take a course, was when I was in high school. I had the English writing course. We had to write up the stories, and actually that was probably the beginning of my journey as a writer at the time. I wrote a story, and the teacher gave me back my paper and said, "Good job. I don't usually give out good grades this quickly in the course." And
wow.
Good.
lo and behold, I got myself an A on the story. I was like, "Whoa, what? That's not me." Now, English or writing was never what I would call my forte. For me, lunch and gym was my forte. So uh, but phys ed or lunch but or history. Actually, I was history. I really loved that subject as a subject, period. But in any case, so that's when my journey sort of began. And interestingly enough, ironically enough, here I am. I'm now a published author. And when I first started going to school as a little child, I didn't speak English as my first language, right? So literally
Yeah.
everybody around me is speaking English, and I'm trying to I'm playing catch up, right? I was literally behind other students as far as level reading and writing and stuff like that, because I had an accent, and all this and that
Yeah.
at the time. So they just felt like, "Oh, this kid, he's a little slower than the others," but it wasn't because I was slower, it's because I had the accent. Right? So
Mm,
I was literally,
yeah.
because I had one teacher one time, I think I was around the sixth grade, and basically said, "Read that to me again." And she's like, "You don't need to be in this level. You can be with the rest of us. Like you're good." It's like
That's
finally
fine.
somebody just sat down and listened. Okay, I'm just as normal as the rest of them. so to speak.
Mm.
But anyway, so
Yeah.
so I started out, and here I am now. As I said, I'm a published author. The kid that barely could speak English when he first got to school. So anyway, my journey as an author is, as I might have mentioned to you guys before when we did our interviews previously, is my intention was never to write to begin with. All right. So when I first started writing, I was writing not because I intended to write, but because I was kind of like coming out of a relationship and I was trying to heal the wounds, as they say. I was just writing the story down. So I had written a story back in my 20s. So I started writing back then. It wasn't intended to be a published work. So as the years came on and we got closer to COVID, there's that thing again. COVID seemed to got a lot of people inspired to write, but I decided at that time I had been doing a lot of accomplishments as a individually. I started a whole new life. I just had so many accomplishments in my professional career as an accountant and everything else that was going on. I decided I got to give this a shot. I got to try to write a story, create it, run it, and get it published. See if I can get published. And sure enough, I sat down one summer, in the summer of that first summer during COVID when we were in lockdown, and I just started typing away. I remembered the story that I originally wrote back in my early 20s, and I decided it's still fresh in my head because the story never went away, right? So I just kind of revised it. Obviously, it's not going to be the same as when I first started, but I revised it, submitted it, and sure enough, a week later, they told me, yes, we want to publish your book. So that was my journey, as I say, a little bit different than you guys. But
that's the best part of this, isn't it?
Yeah. It just
Every author is a personality, is a character who's got their own story that is not only told in their words, but it's told in their backstory as well. And that's really important. And it gives you insight into your own characters, I think, to understand that about yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're often a little reflection of us sometimes, or or people that we've met along the way. And can I say, Massimo, I know we've talked about our Australian accents, but I love hearing yours. Like anytime you get to speak, it's a privilege to listen. So,
well, I'm glad
so
you
musical.
I like you that you like my crazy accent because it's a funny story.
Tom and I would have been.
I'm in Chicago, so I have sort of
good teachers for you. We would have seen past the accent.
I would have. So in Chicago, we have this funny Chicago accent. It's not quite like New York, Brooklyn type of New York type of, like you find on the East Coast. But I kid you not, there's a funny story as far as accents go. And I used to play around with the accents. I used to try to pretend to be like one of the guys on the Sopranos. Hey, how you doing? How you doing over there? How you doing? Doing good?
Is there some similarities between the Jersey and the Chicago accent, or is it sort of?
No, Chicago, we're more like, hey, Hey, I'm from Chicago. I'm Vinny from Chicago, from the South Side. We have a little bit of a different drawl, as we say, right? So, but anyway, I was working at this company a few years back, and sure enough, this guy was walking around, and he had this very deep, heavy East Coast accent, New Jersey, New York, and he used to walk around. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? Are you doing good? Yeah, you doing good? So. One day I'm in the copier room making copies, and he walks in. Hey, how you doing? I go, hey, I'm doing good. How you doing? Right? So I get into it, and the guy goes, hey, where you from? You from the East? Oh, I go, I'm from Chicago. So I go right into the Chicago accent. He was like blown away, like, whoa.
I have a similar with I tend to pick up accents. So when I stay somewhere for a while, so I've lived for a year in Canada and a year in the UK, and so I tend to pick up and assimilate accents when I do that. And there have been people who've thought that I'm making fun of them when I do it because I start to reflect their accent a little bit, and they. You making fun of my accent? No, sorry, it's just my ear. I hear it, and then it starts coming out that way. I remember when my youngest daughter, who was only 7 when we went over to Canada, when she came back, she had such a distinct Canadian accent. It was, it was.
Oh, look, that happens. When I was on the cruise ship, one of my best mates on the ship was a Texan, Scott. If he might actually watch or listen to this later. A big shout out to you, mate. But I developed a Texan drawl and came back naturally because we were probably together 8 hours a day. And I came home and everyone's just looking at me funny. And I was coming back and saying I'd never say how y'all doing, but I was starting to say how y'all doing instead of g'day and things like that. So yeah, I think we just adopt it, don't we?
We do, and phrasing as well. I know there was a South African I worked with, and I picked up some of her little mannerisms as well. She was a delight, but yeah, I picked up some of her mannerisms in speech. So, and it's great for your writing though, because you can start to add some authenticity to different races and cultures when you're writing, so that you outline some of those differences in phrasing, and again, it becomes a little more genuine, which is really, really fun.
Interesting you say that, Tom. When I was writing the characters' names, I put faces behind the characters, real people that I knew. If I wasn't necessarily writing about that person, or at least part of that person, I would put the face behind it to make the story. I don't know if you guys are doing the same thing. I'm just out of curiosity.
Quite often. Sometimes they're an amalgamation of a few people. Other times there's a particular personality trait of a real life character you want to shine through, for good or bad reasons.
Right.
And sometimes, like I've read a little bit, I've read one of Tom's books, and I've read a little bit of yours, Muscle. I could sort of feel a bit of you guys, not only in the tone of the author, but also in some of the characters. I feel like you've had these real conversational exchanges, and it's almost probably verbatim from real life in little bits, before you go into long views. Like when I wrote Resurrection, a few people were like, did you do all this? I said, no, this stuff's completely fictional. And and firstly, I'll say, first and foremost, no, I've never been possessed by a demon, so that was all made up.
Your time will come.
That's it. That's right. But yeah, that I think that's where we draw the line, isn't it? That distinction between what we use from real life and what do we then draw from. It's a foundation, but then we jump these huge lengths with our fiction after that.
Right. I mean,
sorry.
Oh, I was just say some of the conversations that I had, like you were mentioning in my book, some of the conversations I did have, but I didn't necessarily write verbatim, as you said. But I mean, I remember some of the things that were said.
Close, right? The gist of it.
Yeah, I just kind of like went off of that, and I probably created a lot of the stuff, or the conversations, that the quotes that are in there, of course.
Mine's a little bit different,
of course.
I guess my process is a little bit different in that regard. I have in my 6 books so far, I have 2 short snippets of conversation that were derived from genuine conversations, and they were very real and very raw. Well, one of them's actually hilarious, the other one's very real and very raw, and they actually appear in the same chapter, which was never an intention, but they do in my first book. But after that, I haven't really had any conversation like that, and because you're trying to build 3-dimensional characters, what Rob said really resonates, that you take bits from different people, but you also throw your own bits that are not from anyone as well. Where Massimo says he's got a face behind it, I did the opposite. I described my characters and then found faces online that kind of fit what I was after, so that I have the visual of those characters in my head, and there's so much you can pick up or imagine from the visual of just looking at a person as to what they're like, and so much that we assume or guess at as a result of that. So I use a lot of that.
I think it's probably important to manipulate characters. Sorry, Tom.
I use a lot of that to kind of manipulate.
Sometimes the audio. The audio drops out sometimes. I think someone's finished, and then all of a sudden they'll continue. So I'm sorry if I'm interrupting anything. I was going to say too, it's probably important to point out that we're all sort of have dabbled in different genres, and I think in terms of dialogue, that's probably the key distinction with probably say Tom's and yours, Massimo, very different realms that we're working in. And I think Resurrection, I sort of had it sounds a little bit realistic at the beginning, but then evolves into a thriller. But what Tom's saying too resonates with me writing this next novel, a fantasy. Even the dialogue sort of sounds almost at times a little bit Shakespearean, a bit dramatic, and never really realistic. And so it's trying to toe that balance between what's good, authentic dialogue for the world that you're in, but at the same time is entertaining and engaging, and it's not mundane conversational. So I think that's been one of my biggest challenges, I think, in changing genre.
One of the most important lessons I actually got on dialogue was that we rarely ask and answer questions directly because there's always a subtext. And
Yeah.
so I've taken a lot more to writing oblique answers in my dialogue from my characters. I think that makes a big difference to that authenticity of dialogue. It was, one of the most important lessons I learned with writing, because my dialogue's always been okay, but it's never been something that's shone. I feel like as I'm writing more and more, I'm getting the opportunity to really polish that and make it more like real life.
Yeah. It's hard though, isn't it, at times, because you still feel like you have to have some level of exposition. But I always think there's got to be other ways in which I can show that rather than through dialogue. And same thing. And subtext, I always sort of refer guys in this, like you never have a guy go, how are you? How are you feeling? Oh, I'm feeling really down right now. They never do. Like you have to get into that, don't you? They normally in real life they'll go, I'm okay. You? Yeah, good.
Yeah.
And then, the subtext and the tone of which they're saying is completely different. And so, and I always think, as well as subtext, good dialogue, you sort of have to almost, when you think of, I don't know if you guys have seen the Seinfeld episode where George thinks of this absolute zinger, the jerk store called and they're running out of you, but he does it on the way home driving and he can't think of, I think real life's like that. We never think of the best lines, but in your novel, you've got that time to every character says the best version of what they're trying to say all the time, the best zingers.
Yeah. You don't want to just put any dialogue, like you said.
No,
you don't want to
no,
just say, hey, how are you? But I mean, it depends on the conversation. Like I think there's a couple bits where people are talking to one another, and then all of a sudden there's somewhat of a confrontation or or conflict or whatever, and then the whole level of the conversation goes from just a simple conversation to, oh my goodness, what's going on over here, right?
Changes.
right. So,
and that's again about that subtext.
Right.
And I always teach students, and Tom would do the same. It's like I always say, just get rid of your everyday conversation when you're writing dialogue. Use less than 20% if you can. And also, I always say, start with something dramatic. So I said, what's more interesting? Hello, how are you? Or you're dead to me in a conversation. They go, wow, sir, you've just escalated. So, well, that's what you do in dialogue. You take the dramatic and escalate it.
But
and work out what you can cut. There are we rarely say more than, say, 3 or 4 sentences end to end unless it's in an interview situation like this.
Right.
And so, really keeping that minimalistic approach to it, I think, is more true to life, and having enough interruptions without having every single interruption, and all of those different things that make dialogue real. There's a lot to play around with there, I think.
Right. Because like in my book, there was a scene where my character goes to this girl that he really is interested in to have a conversation with her, and she didn't want to have a conversation with him. She was not interested in him, but he was interested in her, and she barely said in 2 words to him. You know what I mean? Yeah. So even that conversation was very minimal. It's like, how disappointing, right? Like, you know what I mean? It's just, you don't have to use a lot of conversation. Just bits and pieces works just fine, because like you said, there's the dramatic scene. There he is. Johnny's interested in this girl. He's going after her. He's making his move. And the conversation really wasn't a whole lot to talk about.
That's good, though. But you're also subverting your audience's or your readers' expectations too, because they're probably hoping that this is all reciprocated.
Exactly. Hey, you hope this goes well. Oh, that's too bad.
Well, I do see that in real life too. Like my youngest daughter has a young gentleman she's interested in, and he seems totally oblivious to the fact that she's interested in him. And so she talks to me quite, we've got a close relationship. I won't share any details, but she talks to me quite regularly about little things that happen between them. And you see how slowly and how what a challenging way a relationship can develop. And so you can then, again, incorporate that into your writing. You don't want to copy and paste exactly the same stuff.
Yeah.
It just gives you those extra ideas to say, here's a little snippet that I can work into. Because, one of the things people love, especially in looking at romance stories these days, is that slow burn kind of thing. And you need that tension, that misunderstanding. It can't just be a simple linear journey from I like you to we're married. You really need to have that complication. Those things go wrong, and so it's great to remind ourselves of that as well, that we're storytellers, and so we want to be finding interesting ways to tell that story.
Right. Yeah. So we're probably getting close to wrapping things up here, right? So why don't we go around each other and kind of talk about our upcoming projects, what we got going on, what's in the I believe Tom, you
in the pipeline.
In the pipeline. Thank you. That's
Also,
a good
are we allowed to, Tom? Are we allowed to do any? Are we allowed to do any plugging of any, let's say, collaborative stuff that you and I are working on, or?
Absolutely, this is your hour. This is our hour. We should plug
it's
anything
our power
we
hour.
want. It's right. The
Yeah,
power
that's
hour.
it. I didn't think there's an issue, but yeah, I think there's no conflict of interest here. Tom and I are working on where he's the head writer and I'm another writer in a project of a game that's coming out next year.
Hopefully coming out.
Hopefully next year, fingers crossed. So demo should be out soon. And so those that love sort of, I think, what's the latest one? Is it what's it called? Starfall, Starcraft, something like that. That's the latest game that's come out. It's going to be a little bit like that, or Skyrim if you're a fan. The Oblivion series, Final Fantasy. This game's called Astronova. It's going to be a fantastic world building experience. So if you're into that, that's probably one thing to plug, isn't it, Tom?
Is it
it is. Yeah, it'll have sci-fi fantasy elements. It'll be a role-playing game, assuming it all comes out. So yeah, we're in the final stages, and actually I'll be doing some work on it today, some of the lore of it. So Rob's and my role is around creating lore and creating dialogue and backstories and planetary components and interactions and characters, all of that sort of stuff. Falls to us, and it's been a wonderful thing for us to do, and it's really increased. It's just been another area of interest for it that we've really connected with. So, so that's one project we're working on. But I guess our literary projects is the real focus. You always hand over to us. I want to hand over to you.
Over to you.
What's going on with your third novel?
Wait. Before we get into that, what is this game you're referring to? Is this a video game? Is that
kind of like a PC?
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that.
Game, meta RPG one. Tell me, buddy. Also, might have a guest.
We got a special guest.
You're cheating again, Rob.
We have a special guest. Future writer.
Hopefully,
hey, Ryan.
Hi. This might be his thing, Massimo. He has his little cameo bits. Who are we calling? And he's got R2D2. We're slowly trying to
R2D2
get him into the Star Wars mythology. Another thing I was going to say is, so I'm looking at ideas for the sequel to Guardians of Celeste, but I'll be honest, guys, it's literally just a series of dot points at the moment. I think Tom will probably help me with this, just trying to think of getting into a sequel years after the first one ends. And best way to get the audience back into it, do I write like a prologue just to get them back into it again or something like that? Apart from that, though, the other thing I spend a lot of my time on, apart from teaching, is I've been working for Spoiler Magazine in Hollywood. So we've just got a zombie special edition Halloween comic come out. And before that, summer blockbusters. So that's probably the reason, Massimo, I haven't really done a lot with novel number 2. But I'm hoping the next couple of years that'll be out, and that's probably all I can plug for me. We've got to hear from you, Massimo. Now.
All right. So as far as me goes, the third novel I'm still on hold, only because I feel like I don't want to rush it, and I want to make sure that the ending or the final piece is written perfectly, right? Because I feel like the story has to have that perfect, not perfect ending, but a perfect ending per se, right? And I feel like it's not quite ready. I'm not quite ready to express it in that way. And also, I'm been a little busy with other things with my personal life as well. I'm also looking to other business interests. As well as investments and all that good stuff. And I'm just trying to also build other things along the way. And in fact, I may end up writing a different type of book before I release the third novel of Gianni. So, it's not in the pipeline yet, but I'm kind of like building on a lot of stuff right now. I got a lot of different projects on the pipeline. So, so Tom, when's your book coming out?
Yeah, so my book's coming out in November or early December. Hopefully this weekend I'll have all I'm actually waiting on now is the cover, and I've got a tiny bit of editing still to do, which I'll probably get done today. So that's on book 6, which has taken a little while to come to fruition. I've had a year with a lot of grief actually this year, including among other things, my mother dying unexpectedly. So yeah, there's been a bit of
sorry to hear again,
happened back in June. I actually lost an aunt as well this week. It's been a bit of a rough year, as I said, with grief. So it's slowed down certain things. But yeah, the novel is coming out either late November or early December. As I said, hopefully I'll get the final cover through to me this weekend. And it's called Disasters. All of mine start with that dis prefix. So it's called Disasters, and it'll be.
Sorry, Tom, you were coming in very raspy there, so I muted you for a second.
He's just in half his room.
Go ahead and unmute yourself. It was coming in really rough.
Okay, I'm a bit closer.
There we go. There we go.
Excellent. Thanks, Massimo. So it's called Disasters. It'll be coming out next month. And look, feel free to pick up the other 5 books of my series, the Magicium series as well. It's been a labor of love, and I'm already over 10,000 words into book 7 as well, which I've taken a little bit of a twist to the genre there. I've added a new component in. But I won't reveal that just yet, because I'm hoping to be on with Massimo another time and maybe can talk a bit more about Dirty and where that story is headed as well. But please check out Disasters. I'm really excited to have finally gotten to the release of it. I'm hoping that this 7th book will roll out a lot quicker after that as well.
Great. So yeah, what I'll do is I'll definitely add your links.
I guess I'm hoping people read more.
I was just going to say, I want to add your links, everybody's links in the video, in the description, so people could check out the new book or your book that you already have out there. And then at some point when you guys have your game ready, you let me know, and I'll also add that to the video link as well. Maybe we'll just revisit and do a new link and have like a demo. Maybe do a demo on for everybody.
Promotion.
There you go. Maybe do a maybe we'll do a live one. Once it's ready to go out, we'll do a live demo.
Oh yeah, a live gameplay together. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah,
I've got to do some cross promotion here. That's it. So if you love the fantasy of Tom's novels, then you'll enjoy my Guardians of Celeste novel. But if you like a bit of the romance in mine, then you'll definitely love Desire for Love.
Yeah,
Massimo. And if you like Desire for Love, I've got romance that falls apart all the time in mine. So that's the alternative. I think that'll fit in a little bit with what I understand of Massimo's ending to at least his first novel. So do support us all, people. Okay, we're authors trying to make a living out of this. Yeah. We would love to see sudden huge sales from you viewing what we're doing now, and
I was going to say my royalties are about $2 a month at this point.
Everybody like this video, make your comments, watch, definitely promote, let everybody know, tell your friends and family, hey, these guys, they got some great novels out there. So guys, thank you again. It was a lot of fun. Like I said, I'd be more than happy to have you guys come aboard again whenever it is that we do it. Again,
How good would it be to do it live next time, Massimo? I think,
maybe that next time, like I said, when your
absolutely.
video game
I'll
is
have to make
ready,
sure Ronan does
we
another
do a
cameo
live
too.
demonstration, and it's all out.
Oh,
I mean,
fantastic.
this might be a first in history, a live demonstration of a video game going live, like on a podcast. I mean,
You need to come out Steve Jobs style though, Massimo, just in that skivvy and the thing, and then just point straight to the board,
right.
and then I'll come
I
along
love
and
Steve
explain
Jobs.
everything.
Yeah. The Apple guy.
Yeah.
So, guys, thanks again. We'll talk later. Have a good day.
Awesome.
Brilliant. Thanks,
for
Massimo. You
Bye.
too.
So, if you are connected on my social media sites, contact me directly to make an appearance on the MPP Power Hour. Hurry while there are still spots available. Don't forget to smack those buttons to subscribe and like my video. Thank you for watching.